everybody. Today on BookBreak, we're joined by a couple of overachievers, frankly, both Chris Guillebeau and Emily Atkinson. Emily has nearly a decade under her belt as a business director and is founder of the beautiful book company, which offers a range of literature-related gifts and celebrates the joy of a physical book. Hello, Emily.
Hello.
Hi. And Chris, you are the author most recently of Side Hustle, and prolific in writing, casting podcast, host of the World Domination Summit. Is that as intimidating as it sounds?
It's actually quite welcoming.
And famously the visitor of every single country in the world. Hi guys, thanks for meeting with us. So nice to have you.
Pleasure.
I wanted to kick this off because you have this new book out, Side Hustle, where you're telling stories of people who have started up side hustles that then end up turning a profit. Both of you have kind of gone through this process yourselves. What I feel like the hardest bit of this is identifying what you can turn into like a side hustle and a business. How do you go about trying to find those projects that you can then turn into something more prolific? Chris, if you want to take it first. It's your book.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, thank you. So through the book, I'm trying to take people through this kind of 5-week process, divided into 27 steps. Each day you get one thing you do. Day 1, step 1, day 2, step 2. First part is all about understanding where ideas come from, like where do good side hustle ideas come from. So there's a couple of different approaches to that. You can just develop the power of observation, go through daily life, pay attention, like what problems do you encounter, what solutions might be offered, whether by you or somebody else. You can take an inventory of your skills, your life experience, what did you learn to do in school or for your job or something else, what are you interested in, like what do people ask you about. I think it's really helpful to just kind of develop this introspection, and then going from basic idea to some kind of specific offer as quickly as possible. Because I think a lot of people have like some vague general idea for a business or a side hustle.
I've never done that before.
No. Right. But then they don't really develop it into a product or a service, which is what people buy. You know, we as consumers, we don't buy ideas, we buy products and services. So I'm trying to help people do that in different ways.
What was it like for you, Emily, when you kind of came up with your own business idea in like the book industry? Which obviously is already it's already like pretty entrenched, and you're shaking it up a little bit.
Yeah, it was. It took me a while to come to the kind of idea. I think it all began with a bit like sort of Chris is saying, this desire to do something that I was passionate about, and kind of basically to have an excuse to read more books, which is something I love doing, and to make money from it. And I sort of had a few ideas ticking over in the background for quite a long time, but for me it was all about finding a service that I wanted that didn't exist. So actually, at the time I was thinking about what to do. I specifically was looking for this kind of book subscription model I wanted to sort of buy as a gift or kind of buy for myself, and I realised there wasn't an offering, and so actually there was a gap in the market to try and exploit. So it's sort of the combination of that hobby passion and looking for a place where there's some money to be made.
What if you identify something that already has like a competitor? Like Chris, you might be able to.
I think that's a good sign.
It's
a good sign, actually. Yeah. I think people sometimes think they have to have an idea that is completely original. I think it's nice to have an idea that you have some differentiation or you have a twist or something that you're bringing to it. But obviously, books existed, before. Gifts existed, So I actually think it's a good sign because it shows like there's some validation that people do want this kind of thing.
You mentioned. I'm not going to say that you encourage people to steal ideas, but it's certainly mentioned in the book that they should steal ideas.
Yeah, something like beg, borrow, or steal ideas. I try to give people like a whole list. Like, it's not that hard to learn to develop this skill of coming up with ideas, but just in case you struggle, then there's a whole list of them for you.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, you talked about this kind of like being your love and your hobby, right? How do you go about making kind of like the thing that you love into something that you can turn into like a living? Because I'm struggling, because I just make videos on the internet, and that is not very easy to make a living out of. How did you go about kind of turning this love of yours, this passion of yours, into something like profitable?
Yeah, I think it was like really trying to isolate what it was that people liked about the experience of reading books and why books are so popular, and actually why and when people would buy books. And for me then it was looking at that kind of the whole new book experience and actually getting something in the post. And because a lot of our products are sold as gifts, obviously, and particularly the subscription model where you get a book every month, you don't know what you're going to get. And there's something really lovely about, you know, you get something in the post and it's new and it's different. And for me, in all the research I did sort of running up to launching the company, you know, was talking to people about that physical experience of kind of owning real books and having things unexpected arriving. So yeah, I was just kind of looking for that sort of angle that was a bit different.
Is it difficult to have your passion as also the thing that you have to exploit to like pay the bills?
Not in this instance. I imagine in some areas it probably is very difficult, but I think because a lot of what I'm doing is you know, kind of searching for those new books and those books that are really interesting or those books that people will love, it just means that sort of I get to really do what I love.
It's what I was going to say. It's what you love to do. So it's not an obligation. It's something you get to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how I feel.
Yeah.
You talk about in Side Hustle, Chris, about there being a distinction between a hobby and a side hustle.
Sure.
What is the difference between a hobby and a side hustle?
I don't think that everything you do in life has to be for money. There's lots of things you can do for art or for love or whatever. But if you are trying to make money, then it has to be more than just your hobby, right? There's a lot of things you might do that you enjoy, but it has to be something that brings value to other people. And so this is a great example because it's something that Emily loves and she has this background and she's really passionate about it, but she's also thought a lot about like why other people are going to care in terms of developing the product, and that element of surprise and mystery I think is really, really interesting. So you have to think, you know, just like she said earlier, the combination of like, this is my background, this is what I'm excited about, and this is also what brings value to the world. Not the whole world, but to my part of the world. And I think that's kind of where the magic happens.
Oh, we've got that endorsement from Chris Guillebeau. You can stick that on your website. It would be great.
We'll take her endorsement as well. So.
Actually, talking about your company, you're quite unconventional and you're a bit of a disruptor, which is a buzzword at the moment in the world of business. But like a lot of people have kind of said that like ebooks are the way forward. That's where the majority of sales are going to be coming from in the future. But you're going kind of the complete polar opposite of that and doing something more bespoke, physical, love of like the physical page turning book. Were there any like naysayers who kind of like talked you down? And where can we send Chris to like tell him what's what?
I think actually as I was setting up the company, there was a real kind of downward trend in sales for sort of physical books, which interestingly obviously has kind of started to realign itself now. I think for me, a lot of it was just intuition. I knew personally how I felt about having physical books, but also from the research that I did, and actually I think people will always want to have physical copies of really beautiful books, and the entire premise of the company is founded on that kind of belief. You know, people still want to have bookshelves in their home where they show off the books that they've read and they keep them, and there's nothing better than kind of having that sort of tangible, hard copy with the new book smell. I think ebooks have their place. I think they're great if you're travelling a lot, if you're going away, if you want to commute and read, and the accessibility they give to people to download books in an instant is amazing. But I still think it's not like sort of with DVDs and online videos. Books, physical books, I think are always going to have a role.
Was it a bit of a hard sell though at the very beginning, or were you kind of preaching to the choir? Because obviously you're around all of these people that work with books and clearly very passionate about them. Do you think you're selling a certain amount of nostalgia?
I think to an extent, but I have to say that anyone who is a reader and does love literature, it's not difficult to sell this to them because they are the people that love books and actually they want the physical books.
do love the new books.
It's really people who aren't that into reading who kind of go, but you know, then it's a bit heavy, you've got to carry it around. It's not convenient.
We are on the Pang Mac channel, and so you should say nobody doesn't like reading.
Everyone loves it.
Yeah, exactly.
But so no, it wasn't a hard sell for, I guess, my target audience really. And actually one area that is really interesting, we do a lot of book subscriptions for kids and toddlers, and that's a really sort of growing market because I think there is this nostalgia of parents and sort of older generations wanting to have the books they had as kids, which you're not going to buy as an ebook for a toddler, and actually those physical
Hungry
books
Caterpillar all the way.
Exactly. And
exactly.
they're tactile books, aren't they? Those kinds of things, I mean, they're always going to be around. There's always a demand. So,
Chris, how often should you plug away at an idea that is perhaps going against the grain before you kind of drop it?
Yeah, I think the important thing is to not take a lot of risk whenever possible, or at least to reduce the risk. Like there's always going to be some, but What I'm trying to encourage people to do is to launch their project in a short period of time, so that they're not spending a lot of money and they're not investing, long months or potentially years in a project before they have any sort of validation. And so I feel like when you kind of go that route, then you're able to adjust quicker. Then you're able to see, okay, how do people respond to this? No plan survives contact with the battleground, like people say. So, like, what do you then do? Once it's out there, do you realign? Do you tweak something? Do you change something, or do you actually say, like, I really thought this would be the thing, but maybe it's not. That's okay. I'm going to go back and choose something different. I think that's critical.
Is that kind of part of the whole side hustle thing? I'm not deliberately going back to the book, I just keep on coming back to the book. Is that kind of like the deliberate thing about side hustle, is that you're able to kind of try stuff out before you, like, you don't have to commit to it full time, but you can. If
sure.
It becomes
and I'm writing this book for people who aren't necessarily entrepreneurs. I'm actually writing for people who have jobs. And they don't necessarily want to quit their job. Maybe they actually love their job.
Yeah, paychecks are great.
Right. Or maybe one day they do, but they have a family, they got a mortgage, whatever, and that's fine. But they want to create more freedom for themselves. They want to have more options. They want more choice. And extra money. Of course, that's great. So it is a bit different from what you might see on Dragon's Den or something. A lot of the things I feature are
that's very realistic.
Right. A lot of things I feature are not necessarily like scalable or even long-term sustainable. That's okay. That's okay. They're helping people experiment, helping people make money. So the book actually begins with this story of this guy from Scotland who creates a little website based on fish tanks. Right. He actually does like this review site of fish tanks. He's passionate about fish. That's his hobby. So in a weekend, he's a construction project manager. In a weekend, he builds this little website and he puts some links from his fish tank reviews to Amazon. He joins the Amazon affiliate program. He goes away because he's busy with his work, and then like a month later, he gets a check in the mail, for something like $200. He's like, first of all, $200, how much is that? Convert that.
It's about £200 right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's another topic. Second of all, like, can I actually deposit this at the bank? Like, is this real money? And so then he puts a little bit more work in the project, but doesn't do a whole lot because he's got other stuff he does. The whole end of the story is this was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And ever since, he's getting a check in the mail for about $700 every month, 500 pounds or so, let's say. So is that money he can live off of? No, but it's free money, right? Is it going to last forever? Probably not. But it's fantastic. Like, it's giving him and his wife an extra, vacation a year.
You're saying that when Dad said there was no such thing as free money, he was lying to me? It's terrible.
Well, I have this whole thing about how money grows on trees. Money grows on trees, but you have to find the right seed and plant it in the right soil and all that.
Yeah, no, exactly. How much of this whole kind of thing, including for you, Emily, is finding like a niche in like the long tail? And kind of exploiting that. Like, not everybody is someone who is hugely into like the physical smell of a book or whatever, although they should be. But knowing that there is a market there that you can exploit as much as possible.
I mean, I think the biggest challenge I've found is finding the right channels for what I'm offering. So above and beyond just having my own website, obviously partnering with the right kind of suppliers and looking for the opportunities where people are going to purchase gifts specifically. So I think it's about tapping into your kind of audience in the right way and making sure you're reaching the right people. Because you're right, it's not for everybody. It is relatively niche, but I think anything that you can turn into...
I didn't mean to downplay the whole
No.
idea.
I think anything that is sort of gift related in particular is kind of an easier sell because you just have to position the products in the right places and hope that the sales will come.
I was going to say, I think it's important to know like who your people are, which Emily clearly knows, like who your people are as well as who they aren't. She mentioned like some people that just don't care for books. That's great. You're not necessarily trying to, sell them because there's a big market of people who do like books and like gifts and, know people that they're for. And I think that's important. I don't know that it has to be niche. Though. I think sometimes it's niche, like the fish tank review guy. Sometimes it's much broader, So I think it really just depends. It's about finding the right product, the right service that people want.
So we're turning back time. We've opened up a portal, right? And you're able to go through to like the younger, but definitely not more attractive or successful you. And you're able to give them one piece of advice before you embark on your first like entrepreneurial project. What do you tell them? This is like one of those stock questions that I quite like.
I think for me, I would say just dive in, just do it. I think I spent too much time procrastinating, and I assume this is something that a lot of people do. You get a bit of an idea and then you sort of get stuck. And I wish, retrospectively, that I just set up the website and got on with it. And as soon as I did, everything else started happening. But just taking that very first step, I was a bit too scared to do it for a while. So yeah, I'd say to myself, just dive in. Just what's the worst that can happen?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's great. I like that.
No, you have to answer in a different way.
I will answer in a different way, but I like that. I would say the same thing. First of all, I wish I'd started sooner. That's what I would say. I would say you're going to go on this grand adventure, and some things are going to be amazing, and some things aren't going to work out. That's okay. And there's this cliche about like the best time to start was last year, but failing that, today will do. So if there's somebody who's watching it and they're thinking like, should I start something? Well, yes. This is a great time to start. I would say the other thing I would say to myself is, like, don't water down your message. Like at different points in your life and your career, you're going to think like, oh, I need to be more balanced, or I need to like reach a broader market or something. I think that's a mistake. I think like, you have the message you have for a reason, and if you're a bit rebellious or you just have your own unconventional perspective, I love that word. That's you. So don't try to water that down. Like use that as your strength.
So this is all very positive. But if somebody were to come to you for advice, what red flags are you going to look for that would make you give them the advice that you should probably try something else? Go on, Chris.
Yeah.
Destroy some dreams.
Sure. Well, I want to destroy dreams so we can build other dreams.
Exactly.
So I guess a lot of what I'm trying to teach people about is using the skills they already have, as opposed to going out and like getting a whole bunch of new skills. So what I try to do in the Side Hustle book, like, these are very simple businessy kind of skills to learn. The whole point is to take this and then, apply it to the life experience you have and what you learned in school if you went to school or whatever. But so I guess I hear from people from time to time who are like, I have a great idea, I want to make an app. And I'm like, okay, are you a web developer? I'm like, no.
How's your coding?
Right? Do you know how to code? They're like, nope. I'm like, maybe an app's not the greatest idea. Like maybe it is, but the road to doing something like that is going to be much longer and harder, probably more expensive if that's not your skill, compared to something that you actually are skilled in. So I like to draw people's skills out. And that's the first thing, is people who think they should be doing something because somebody else is doing it, or they hear it's a good idea, but it's not necessarily something that they're good at.
I suppose leading on from that, for me, I would say if there's too many barriers to entry, especially if it's a kind of side hustle, hobby type thing, then maybe it's not the right idea. Because I think particularly if you're trying to do something that begins as a sort of part-time that you can then grow, you need to be able to do it pretty much on your own or with the help of a sort of select few people. So if it was anything too complicated, app build being a perfect one, then perhaps it's not the right approach for you.
It's a bit of a cliche now as well. It's like, guys, I have this fantastic idea for an app where people like hire taxis and drive.
Right. Somebody's done that already. But
Yeah, and I guess we've sort of covered it a little bit, but the other thing is, if it's something that you love and you care about, I just think you've got so much more chance of being successful, because you're going to want to work on it every day, even if the going gets tough. So if it's something that someone has no interest in really, then I perhaps would advise some caution. But
Cool. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What should people try and find about you? Plug something, please.
Chris?
You've been very kind to mention the book. So
you have a book out? I have
I
no
do.
idea.
It's called Side Hustle. I also have a daily podcast, Side Hustle School, and every day on the show I'm telling a different true story of somebody who starts this kind of project without quitting their job, and how they do it and what happens along the way.
Lovely.
Come to us for any kind of book related gifts if you know someone who loves books. Obviously in the run up to Christmas, these make great Christmas presents, and we sell
Christmas already?
I know, sorry. We sell book subscriptions and book boxes, which are beautifully wrapped book gifts, and lots of other small bits and pieces as well, so check us out.
Amazing. Thank you very much, guys. Click here to subscribe, and there's going to be another video about businessy things here. Trust it, like it's...
It'll be there.
Yeah, it'll be there. Cool. Amazing. Excellent.